ahead and find your power steering reservoir right here on the passenger side under the hood. We're going to go ahead and pop that cap off, set the cap aside, and we're going to go ahead and start siphoning out what you have for power steering fluid. Once you're all done, go ahead and remove your cup. Using a 19mm socket, go ahead and remove your lug nuts. Remove the wheel, set that aside. Using a trim tool, we're going to go ahead and remove these two buttons holding the splash guard in place here. Once that's out, we'll just take this, pull it down and tuck it underneath. Using a 19mm wrench, we're going to go ahead and move the tensioner back. We're going to pivot that towards the rear of the vehicle. It's a hydraulic unit. We're going to do this very slowly. And we'll go ahead and remove our belt. Now on the back side of the power steering pump, we're going to have two fluid lines. We have this one right here that has two 10mm bolts holding it, and then one right over here. Once those are broken free, I'm just going to switch over to just the socket and just spin those bolts out. And you want to have a catch can underneath for any residual power steering fluid that may be in these lines. Always be wearing safety glasses when working underneath the vehicle, especially when you have a chance of a fluid that can drip or splash in your face. So we're just putting a drip rag or towel underneath here to catch residual fluid. And go up to this metal line here, and we're going to try and pop that out. Here we go. Go ahead and pull that line aside. Right underneath the power steering pump pulley, there is a 12mm bolt. We're going to use a 12mm in our extension. I'm going to go ahead and remove that. Now on the top of the pump, there is a bolt. You're going to see two bolts. You want the one rearward. You don't want to remove the wrong bolt. You'll be able to access from underneath the vehicle or on top of the vehicle. We're going from underneath. Okay, with that bolt loose, I'm going to go ahead and work this pump. Now we're going to go ahead and remove the power steering pump pulley. We're going to use a 19mm socket and some extensions. I'm going to zip that nut off the front of it. I'm going to go ahead and pop a hammer in here and just kind of tap this here, kind of break that pulley free. Reach right on in there, pop the pulley off, pull the pump out to the front, and take a little bit of manipulation. But when we got it out, we had the two hose ports facing upward. We're going to put our new one in the same way. Now this plastic port right here needs to get removed from the return hose here. And there is a metal clamp holding that in place. So we're going to go ahead and remove that clamp. Just using a pair of pliers. And we'll go ahead and pull this off like so. Go ahead and install our new pump unit up and in. I'm going to go ahead and install our power steering pump pulley. Line that up. Drop that on like that. And I did apply a little bit of blue thread locker, and we're going to go ahead and snug that down. Now we're going to bring the power steering pump up into place. Reach around, maneuver those hoses out of the way. And we're going to line up our pulley, or our pump unit, up and into place. I'm going to try and get our bottom bolt started first to at least line this unit up. I'm just going to get one of those, get that lower bolt started. And we're going to zip that down, but we're just not going to tighten it. We just want it to be snug just to hold it in place. Now we're able to move that pump around. We can go ahead and pivot this up into place. Once it's up there, go ahead and get that bolt started. Get it started a few threads. And we're using a 12mm ratchet wrench. That's what we have the room in there for. We're just going to go ahead and snug that up. You want that pretty snug in there. I'm going to tighten up our lower bolt here. Now on the high pressure line, we have a rubber O-ring. You want to replace that when doing this job. So we're just going to use a pick. Pop on in there. Work that O-ring off. Now we're just going to take a rag and we want to clean off this port where it's going into the power steering rack. Make sure there's no debris on there. We want to remove the low pressure rubber cap on the new pump. Just going to pop that off. And take our return line here. Slide that down into place. Now grab our pliers and we'll move that clamp down into place. All right. With that installed, we're going to go ahead and clean the high pressure line fitting. We also want to go ahead and remove this plastic cap off of the pump itself. Just going to use a little pick and pop that off. Clean the high pressure line. We're going to slide our new O-ring over the port of it. Okay, now we have our new O-ring in place. A dab of lube on this here so that O-ring slides in nice and easy. Gonna line this up on the new pump. I'm going to get the bolts started. With both of those started, we're going to go ahead and snug those down a little bit. And as we snug these bolts down, it'll pull the hose down into place and it will seat that O-ring. And you want to tighten these down evenly. And once the bolts bottom out, just go a tiny bit more. You just want to snug those into place. You're holding that line in there with that O-ring. Now go ahead and slowly move the tensioner. Get our belt lined up, pop that on, and slowly release the tensioner back into play. Now go ahead and install our splash guard here. Get your buttons pressed in. Go ahead and install your wheel. I'm going to start all the lug nuts by hand and then we'll snug them down. Our vehicle has a locking lug nut. Go ahead and install that and tighten that down. Go ahead and torque your lug nuts down to 79 foot-pounds. Go ahead and grab a clean funnel, and on the side of the reservoir here, there's going to be levels. We can safely use one full bottle for now. Make sure you use the correct factory recommended specification or specified fluid for the power steering system. Once you've reached the full mark or the line on the side of the reservoir, remove your funnel, pop in your cap, and then we'll go ahead and start the vehicle, and we're going to cycle the steering lock to lock, left to right, and then we'll recheck the fluid.